He was about to say more words suitable to the occasion when Wu Wang rebuked him.
Shen Jingqiu, don't end up like Su Xiyan, with your heart led astray due to a moment's carelessness, resulting in a lifetime of regrets. As a big lord, you should know some shame.
Shen Qingqiu's feet almost slipped out from under him, and his expression couldn't help but twist a little. How was his situation the same? He just managed to right his expression when Luo Binghe sent a palm strike at Wu Wang. Shen Qingqiu channeled spiritual energy into the tip of his fan, blasting away the staff's next blow. Didn't I just say, leave it to me? Luo Binghe's expression was dark and clouded. He can say whatever he likes about me, but not about you. In the span of this exchange, they'd already been surrounded by the cultivators in the main hall, all dressed in various colors. Sure enough, the moment Luo Binghe used demonic qi, hostilities erupted with marked celerity. Wu Wang waved his staff.
6 里的月, this fiend still addresses Shen Qingqiu as his Shizun, and Shen Qingqiu has yet to repudiate him either. What is your view? Do you still recognize Luo Binghe as a member of Changqiu Mountain?
Yue Qingyuan didn't answer, and his face appeared without emotion, devoid of joy, sorrow, pleasure, or anger. His voice, too, was steady, its pitch neither rising nor falling, as he remained calmly seated. Martial brother, come back. Shen Qingqiu unconsciously took a step toward him. He thought to himself that he should first admit his wrongdoings and pacify the chief a little. If Yue Qingyuan could come over to their side, they could definitely keep the situation under control. But before he could head over, Luo Binghe grabbed him. Don't go. He repeated himself again. Don't go. Within his tone was a hint of desperate pleading. Shen Qingqiu hadn't managed to answer when hundreds of sword glares were sent careening toward where they were, surrounded in the center of the crowd. Liu Qingge's pupils shrank, and Chen Luan's sword left its sheath in answer. Suddenly, tremors shook the entire main hall. A dome of light, arcing with sparks of black and white lightning, exploded. When the tremor ceased, people lay strung all across the floor. Roughly only 1 in 4 remained either standing nor leaning for support. Luo Binghe's eyes were now red, their glow brighter than daylight, as if either searing lava or crimson blood would flow forth from them at any moment. His lapels and sleeves billowed with a black qi that roiled without pause. The demons pressed against the floor burst in laughter.
You old-timers are indeed shameless, one said. You have to be all self-righteous about it too. Ha!
Another one chimed in. Luo Binghe held Shen Qingqiu with one arm. I am a demon, so go ahead and attack me altogether, he said, enunciating each word clearly. I don't care, but what has my Shizun done to be attacked together with me? In truth, Shen Qingqiu had suffered no injuries. The tremors had been violent enough to make him stumble, but Luo Binghe had immediately grabbed him, pulling him into the crook of his arm and thereby protecting him. He wanted to continue mediating, but Wu Wang interrupted. You call him Shizun, and he doesn't renounce you. Is this not reason enough? Oh my God, that bold donkey! Shen Qingqiu twirled the fan in his hand, knocking away various swords and blades as they came at him from all kinds of bizarre angles, sending them flying. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. What does this Shen's renunciation or lack thereof have anything to do with you? He said. The endless sounds of weapons clattering to the floor filled his ears. Shen Qingqiu turned and suddenly saw Yue Qingyuan coming at him straight on, imposing and formidable. with a hand on Xuan Xu's hilt. Shen Qingqiu's arm immediately went weak, to the point that he almost sent his fan flying right from his hand.
Fight Yue Qingyuan? Like hell!
But, unexpectedly, though Yue Qingyuan raised Xuan Xu's sword, he didn't direct it at Shen Qingqiu, but rather glanced off course by a couple of inches. A resounding clang rang from Shen Qingqiu's ear, and he quickly twisted his head around to look. Xuan Xu's hilt was in a deadlock with Wu Wang's staff, having blocked it. Unable to land a hit on Luo Binghe, Wu Wang had decided to hit Shen Qingqiu from behind. Though Yue Qingyuan had joined the battle, he didn't attack the two surrounding targets. Instead, he blocked the blades meant for Shen Qingqiu again and again. With Yue Qingyuan jumping in, Liu Qingge also entered the fray. The pair fought at random, their mode of operation about the same. They attacked anyone as long as it wasn't Shen Qingqiu, causing nothing but trouble. The problem being that this, quote, trouble came in the form of two experts, and their attacks were both vicious and precise. Finally, Wu Wang couldn't take it anymore.
Peak Lord Liu,
he said, enraged. A single slash of Liu Qingge's blade shaved the whisks of the Tianyi Temple's Taoist into bold, featherless dusters.
My hand slipped,
he said, expressionless. Wu Wang was so angry his whiskers stood straight up.
6 里的月!
After deflecting Wu Wang's staff from Shen Qingqiu for the third time, Yue Qingyuan spoke too. My eyes were mistaken, he said mildly. Everyone at the scene thought in unison. The saying that Changqiu Mountain sides with their own no matter the sin was indeed not baseless. One slip of the hand could be explained, but two. One mistake of the eyes were understandable, but they've been continuously mistaken ever since you stepped in. Can't the two of you fight properly? Exactly whose side are you on? Yue Qingyuan and Liu Qingge sent a message with their actions, which is go ahead and fight, but under no circumstances may you strike the Qingjing Peak Lord. Shen Qingqiu shoved Luo Binghe with the back of his hand. You leave first. Not only did Luo Binghe fail to be shoved, he grabbed Shen Qingqiu's wrist. Shizun, let's leave together. Come with me. Shen Qingqiu didn't turn his head to look at Luo Binghe's expression. First, there was no time, and second, he couldn't bear it. He yanked his hand free and urged him on. You're still not going. When I tell you to leave, leave. Be good and listen to me. He didn't know how long he could hold the others off, and he absolutely couldn't abandon this mess of a situation and escape with Luo Binghe. Yue Qingyuan and Liu Qingge had been brazen with their show of bias, and Wu Wang was already furious. Either Shen Qingqiu or Luo Binghe had to stay behind, or open conflict would erupt between Zhaohua Monastery and Changqiu Mountain. After a short period of silence, Luo Binghe said quietly, All right, since Shizun said so. In the next moment, he had landed on the field outside the main hall. His speed was so fast, so terrifying, that for a moment everyone forgot to regroup with their weapons and chase him down.
Set a barrier!
Wu Wang shouted. Several monks rushed toward the field. Shen Qingqiu pulled out Qiuya's sword with incredible speed and snapped his fingers. The sword careened forward right into their midst, disrupting their formation and sending them into disarray. This master will return to Changqiu Mountain first, he called out to Luo Binghe. I'll come find you afterward. Luo Binghe had Meng Mo's techniques. They'd been able to meet without a problem, no matter the time, so long as Shen Qingqiu plopped his head down and slept. And when that time came, Shen Qingqiu would properly soothe Luo Binghe's injured psyche and wounded heart. At the thought of saying this out loud for everyone in the main hall to hear, Shen Qingqiu couldn't help but feel a little diffident. He sneaked a glance at the pair from Changqiu Mountain, unable to stop himself. Luo Binghe saw this. The corner of his mouth twitched a little, and a strange smile spread over his face. Quite a few people who saw that smile shivered, terror welling in their hearts for no discernible reason. "I will come back for you, Xìtǒng," Luo Binghe said quietly. Before those words had fully left his mouth, his silhouette had disappeared. With him gone, Wu Wang let out a frustrated yell. In contrast, Shen Qingqiu sighed in relief. He immediately recalled Xiuya to its sheath. Then he removed the sword from his waist and held it horizontally, offering it to Yue Qingyuan with both hands. This situation was urgent. Having no alternative, Qingqiu committed a great many offenses, and he now asks sect leader for his punishment. Yue Qingyuan made a sound in acknowledgement and pushed the sword back. "Since you've already come back, we can discuss the punishment after returning to Changqiu Mountain." Shen Qingqiu peeked at his face. Though Yue Qingyuan's expression was incredibly stern, given his actions in the fray just now, that was probably only a show he was putting on for outsiders. Based on prior experience, Yue Qingyuan's quote, "We can discuss this after returning to Changqiu Mountain," unquote, was basically equivalent to, "Forget about it. Let's go home and have dinner." His sect leader was unquestionably incredibly lenient, but getting rid of Wu Wang wouldn't be so simple. Luo Binghe had escaped in full view of everyone, and although most of the blame lay with the three peak lords stirring up chaos, Zhaohua Monastery would lose face no matter how they tried to frame this. So instead, Wu Wang pressed his palms together and said, "I'm afraid we can't dismiss this incident so easily. At the very least, Pig Lordship must offer an explanation. Either that or Changqiu Mountain must offer an explanation in his stead." From a corner, someone said shrilly, "Just now we caught Su Qian confused for placing a man's sweet and honeyed words above her master's grace, but this Shen Qingqiu is even more confused. Even without lobbing her sweet words, he still fails to understand the full extent of this situation." Shen Qingqiu pretended he hadn't heard this, while Yue Qingyuan remained courteous. The discipline of Changqiu Mountain's members naturally falls upon this Yue. I will of course offer everyone here a proper explanation. Master Wu Cheng was pleased. "Amitofo, that is the best possible conclusion. I trust that sect leader Yue and Pig Lord Shen will most certainly settle this affair in a fair and proper manner." Everyone was speechless. They were all thinking that either Master Wu Chen's monkhood had too far detached him from the dust-ups of mortal affairs, or that he was suppressing his conscience and lying through his teeth. Wu Wang humphed, then continued his censure. "That might not be the case. Perhaps everyone here has forgotten the Sower incident in Jinlan City. Pig Lordship said that he would explain himself, but the truth is that, as of today, he has yet to give us anything. After a short incarceration in the water prison, he escaped, then faked his death in Huaye City and vanished for 5 years. Changqiu Mountain still has yet to release any sort of detailed statement on this matter. If this was the explanation Pig Lordship and your honored sect meant, this one frankly cannot offer any compliments." He was dredging up old affairs, but Shen Qingqiu's focus had wandered off, and he wasn't listening at all. The system had already sent him a flashing red warning. Like fuck he had the mind to listen to an old monk attempting to settle old scores. The Zhaohua Monastery scenario has entered final score. Righteous image points, -200. Quest completion status, 100% failed. Shen Qingqiu had hit the 200 mark, but instead of +200, it was minus. In his long history of painful back and forth with the system, This was the first time he'd fallen below the danger line of 0. Suddenly, a sharp pain pierced his head, along with an overwhelming sense of dizziness. Quest failed. Honored customer, please be prepared. In 60 seconds, you will be sent back to your original world. The fuck? As long as any point values fell below 0, he'd be sent back to his original world? Wait, don't fuck with me, Shen Qingqiu roared internally. You're sending me straight back just for this? Don't you know that my old account has already been cancelled? It was just one failure. I have so many satisfaction points. Can't they serve as compensation somehow? What about B points? I have plenty of B points too. Surely having so many have some use. Overwhelmed by panic, his mind churned and quaked, while his face flashed through a myriad of colours, green, then white, then red, one after another. Noticing that something was off, that Shen Qingqiu looked about to vomit or faint at any moment, Liu Qingge asked, "What's wrong?" System then said, "Would you like to use all your current satisfaction points to purchase another method of punishment?" Yes, no matter the cost. Then came a ding. Purchase successful. Satisfaction points reduced to 0. Please take note of your balance. Downloading the punishment. Wow, the pink-hued satisfaction points value really had become a 0. This was the second time he'd gone empty. Shen Qingqiu mentally waved bye-bye. His head was no longer in pain, but the dizziness remained. Yue Qingyuan had also noticed that something was wrong. "Were you hit?" he asked. With a hand on Shen Qingqiu to keep him steady, Liu Qingge raised his head and asked, "Who hit him?" The Baizhan Peak Lord was asking a question, and with such a terrifying look on top of that, everyone fell over themselves to shake their heads. This had to be an act. Who could have hit Shen Qingqiu? In that situation, Shen Qingqiu was the last person who could have been hit, okay? Who was the one being protected by 3 masters, both covertly and in broad daylight, and now he wobbled? He had the audacity to wobble when he had only ever been hitting everyone else? The sounds of dispute around Shen Qingqiu became increasingly harsh and garbled. His head spun and spun, then his vision went dark. He went down with a thud, right between Yue Qingyuan and Liu Qingge. He really collapsed. When Shen Qingqiu opened his eyes again, he was no longer at Zhaohua Monastery. He looked around, but saw absolutely no one. From the look of things, he was in a dream realm. However, under normal circumstances, his current dreams always featured Qingjing Peak. This was because he was connected to Luo Binghe's dream realm, and Qingjing Peak was the latter's favorite dream realm location. At a loss, Shen Qingqiu walked about for a while, carefully examining his surroundings. Suddenly, he realized that this was indeed Qingjing Peak. However, it was a Qingjing Peak after it had been razed to the ground. From the bamboo forests to the bamboo house, all had been reduced to ashes. Only some crumbling debris and withered stalks remained, charred black and toppled over. Wisps of white and the scorched stench of smoke drifted above. Faced with such utter desolation, the more Shen Qingqiu looked, the less he could remain calm. This was far too thorough a razing. What a massive grudge! Shen Qingqiu pinged the system. "Can you explain the situation?" System says, "Greetings. While the punishment is in progress, the systems and other function will not be available as usual. We ask for your understanding and wish you good luck." Wow, so the punishment had already begun. Shen Qingqiu punched an imaginary wall in his mind. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps on gravel reached his ears. The footsteps followed a pattern. Each step was followed by a pause, slow but not hesitant. Instead, they gave off a sense of power, a feeling that the person in question was crouched in wait, ready to pounce. In the midst of scorched earth and rubble, a silhouette slowly approached. A cold wind blew, fluttering this person's black robes and wide sleeves. His face was a flawless snow white, matching the overlapping panels of his collar. Arms crossed, he slowly sauntered forward. An expression of contemptuous disdain hung upon his face, and from time to time he kicked the charred pebbles by his feet with an air of utter disinterest. Inadvertently, Shen Qingqiu called out, "Luo Binghe." Luo Binghe blinked, his head turned just a little. A cold, indifferent gaze pierced the air toward Shen Qingqiu. It fell upon him like the stabs of two icy knives. His heart jerked, and suddenly the wind felt too fierce, his clothes a bit flimsy. Or why else would there be a chill along his forehead and back? Luo Binghe raised an eyebrow and flicked some non-existent dream ash off his sleeves. He let out a closed-mouthed, questionable hum, a hint of confusion within it. Shen Qingqiu immediately stopped right there. This feeling was wrong. Luo Binghe tilted his head. Shen Qingqiu. This was even more wrong. The tone, the expression, the disposition, none of it seemed like Luo Binghe, but at the same time, they all seemed like Luo Binghe. If compelled to give a clearer explanation, Shen Qingqiu would have said that the person standing before him right now felt like the original Luo Binghe. Shen Qingqiu froze on the spot. With his lack of answer, quote Luo Binghe, unquote, took a step toward him. Shen Qingqiu automatically moved to grab his sword for self-defense, but the spot at his waist was completely empty. He knocked on the door in his mind. System! What exactly is up with this punishment scenario? Where did you get the scenario from? Are you telling me to fight the boss barehanded? Greetings. While the punishment is in progress, the systems and other functions, including consultation, are not available. We ask for your understanding and wish you good luck. Fuck me! Fuck. Exactly what am I supposed to do in this situation? With his hands tucked into his sleeves, Luo Binghe smiled. Shen Qingqiu, why are you here? From what I recall, I never let you in, no? Shen Qingqiu was now 10,000% certain that the person before him was absolutely not the Luo Binghe of the world he knew. When addressing him, Luo Binghe always said, "Shizun, Shizun," his voice as sweet as honey. He never dared to call Shen Qingqiu by name, let alone speak to him like this, with a tone like he was goading a dog. In any case, this was a punishment scenario, so Shen Qingqiu probably wouldn't die. With this thought, Shen Qingqiu managed to relax a little. He said calmly, "This is Qingjing Peak?" Luo Binghe looked around. "If you hadn't said so, I wouldn't have remembered." What? How could he not remember? If this was truly the original Luo Binghe, wasn't the culprit who'd so thoroughly raised Qingjing Peak none other than himself?